G'day folks, ZiggyD here, and welcome to a Last Epoch Woven Echo guide. Cenotaph of Worlds is a rare echo that can be obtained from level 100 content such as Empowered Monoliths, or from Cemeteries of Reweaving. It can also be purchased from the vendor Mask in the Haven of Silk for a rather hefty 3000 amber at rank 9, which, with how slowly you get ranks for the Woven, that's a pretty late buy-in. So, it must be kinda spicy. It requires 100 corruption to play, so any Empowered Monolith works for this one. And inside the map is a small entrance area where you have to slay a guardian to enter, followed by a rather large and spicy tomb. It's the biggest tomb or cemetery interior map there seems to be, and it does have a larger than average number of shrines in it. And that's kind of helpful because it's definitely harder than most content in the game. I'm doing these at 440 corruption at the moment, which I can handle comfortably, but this map I had to be really careful at times, especially around some of the champion encounters. I ran it a few times and the layout was similar each time, with several chest rooms and a lot of shrines, with a big scary champion encounter before the boss. Then there's the boss. It's a Woven Firstborn, but this time it's way harder. The first run I smashed it with shrine buffs. I think I had a crit shrine, so it went pretty fast. And that's a recommended strategy if you just want to get your passive point. But the second time that I did it normally, and the boss is way harder than normal. It summons other Fate Weaver bosses to empower it. You have to take out the other bosses, which seem to have lower than usual health pools, but it's still kind of tricky and a bit dangerous because of the abilities from the Firstborn. You have to play a bit of bullet hell while you hunt them down. Firstborn's usually pretty easy if you can kind of just stun lock them or kill them really quickly, but when you get a bit of a drawn out encounter like this, some of those can be quite dangerous. The biggest thing seems to be staying off the moving web areas and navigating both the large explosions and the conal web attack. It's easy enough when it is just that Firstborn, but the addition of that second boss into the mix does make things quite a bit tougher. Don't stress too much though if you just want your passive. Like most Woven maps, if you fail this one, you can reattempt again as many times as you want to still claim that passive point for your first completion. The only kind of cost of failure is that there'll be less bonus content in the map and that you won't be able to use the idle enchanter at the end, which is consistent with the rest of these sorts of maps. So on that note, let's talk rewards. With this being so challenging, surely it has some juicy stuff for it. Both times for me, the boss dropped normal Woven Firstborn loot, including an Inheritance of the Erased. Epoch Tools confirms that this map has a normal drop chance for this unique, and that there doesn't seem to be any other unique rewards from this boss, despite them being a mini Uber version of the boss. The loot from the map itself was overall pretty rewarding, but only slightly better than the average cemetery map, I think. And at the end, there is a Woven Enchanter, which has 4 uses, which is the highest of the options, I believe. So it's potentially the best way to spam craft a really good class idol, assuming you can run these quickly and safely. If you don't know, the idol enchanting tables have a use number that depends on the type of tomb that you do. So correct me if I'm wrong, but here's what I've noticed. So random tombs in echoes all have 1 use. Random normal cemetery maps or the Cemetery of Reweaving maps seem to have 2 uses. The Sepulchre of the Lost, being a bit higher end and a bit more dangerous, has 3 uses. And now this Cenotaph of Worlds, which has 4 uses. The other mechanical reward of this map, kind of the special thing that it does, is that all of the surrounding echoes are given a guaranteed tomb. It's got a circle radius, and any pre-existing echo that you haven't completed will have a tomb now when you run it. So I first checked a bunch of normal echoes, and sure enough, they each had tombs. The tombs were normal as far as I could tell, but this is still a pretty nice buff to these echoes, as the tomb maps also have cocoons and possessed enemies roaming about in them in the overworld area, which makes them more rewarding. You got a lot more rare monsters, and you're dropping amber, and you're dropping like the woven items and things like that. So even if you don't plan on really doing the tomb itself, this does make your other echoes more rewarding. So I hoped then that it would work with the woven echoes, since that's where you really want to be juicing things up a bit. So I first checked the popular False Temple Woven Echo, that's the one filled with shrines, because how good would it be if you got a juiced up tomb of shrines? But sadly no, it didn't seem to have any effect at all as far as I can tell, which is a shame because the Lostwood Fully Woven map does seem to work with this, like it puts possessed monsters inside of the False Temple, but sadly that didn't seem to be the case here. No tomb and no extra monsters as far as I could tell. So I lastly checked the most normal Woven Echo style thing that I could think of, which was the class reward echoes, as they kind of act pretty similarly to normal echoes. They are kind of their own unique map, but they seem to just generate kind of like random echo style quests. So I thought maybe this will work. I tried the Primalist one, Bountiful Wilds, but sadly here also no tomb or any other impacts that I could identify. The Cenotaph of Worlds doesn't seem to be able to buff any other Woven Echoes. So yeah, it's a bit underwhelming in terms of rewards. It's pretty cool to have a much harder cemetery and boss fight like this, and it definitely seems that it should have kind of one or maybe all of the following things, or maybe something else. So like a boosted drop rate for the Firstborn's unique maybe, given that they're a much harder boss, or maybe even an own extra unique or a rare unique if they had something else. Or maybe since you're kind of fighting the other bosses, it could drop like a collection. It could have a chance to drop each of the uniques from each of the bosses, but as far as I could tell, that wasn't the case. They could also do something with the Circle of Influence, so perhaps it could be much bigger, like a beacon, so that it touched more echoes, since only touching the ones directly around it, often some of which are completed or empty, since they have to be normal echoes, means that you're only adding like 3 or 4 tombs, probably at best most of the time, and that's just not really that impactful for kind of the rarity and difficulty of this map. Maybe the tombs could be allowed to be able to be spawned in some of the Woven Echoes. You know, that might create some pretty busted combos, but that seems to be what the devs are going for, so maybe that's the option. But, you know, whatever they decide to do, I think probably it could use a little bit of a buff to be more competitive with some of the other Woven Echoes. But that's it for this quick Woven Echo guide. If you like this format and want to see a look at another echo or strategy or mechanic, let me know. But that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.